now I'm kind of pumped. Now I'm feeling the adrenaline, so we'll get this thing going.
I'm pumped, man. Episode 1 was great. Let's go. Episode 2 is going to be better. I couldn't wait for tonight.
Let's go. We got a ton of topics to dive into. I want to remind everyone to make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Big thank you to everyone who helped us hit over 1,000 now. We're already at 2,300, 2,400. We might be at 3,000 by the time we do our next episode. So big thank you to all the Jet fans and everyone out there who's making the Jets Collective what it's going to be, which is going to be awesome. And we certainly have a ton to dive into. So, Rich, what was your reaction when Aaron Glenn is speaking with you guys and he says that Geno Smith is going to take the Jets to the promised land? Did you know right away, that's the headline, that's the takeaway from this 38-minute breakfast press conference setting with the head coach of the Jets?
Yeah, absolutely, Jake. Let me set the scene for you. So it's a round table. There's about 10 writers sitting down. Aaron Glenn is right next to me. Like, we are side by side. We're practically touching. And I asked him the question. It was maybe the fourth or fifth question into the press session. And I said, look, given his struggles last year in Las Vegas, why bring him in and name him the starter instead of bringing in some competition for him? So kind of a pointed question there. And, he's praising Geno. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of that answer, he drops the line. I just feel like, I'm going to read it exactly. I just feel like he's the guy that's going to lead us to the promised land. And absolutely, the bells go off. I'm an old newspaper guy, and tabloid journalism with the Daily News back in the day. And so I absolutely know at that point that that's going to be the headline. And I have two reactions to it. One, as a journalist, a guy who is looking for content, it's like, I love it, right? I mean, it gets us a headline. It gets us some good publicity on ESPN. And if I were a fan, though, that's a poor choice of words. I wouldn't want my coach going out and saying that, not when he's a 3-14 coach talking about a 17 interception quarterback. I thought it was a poor choice of words. I think it's probably been blown out of proportion a little bit, but that's what happens, when the coach has gone through a hellacious offseason with the coaching search, the superpower quote, and now this. There's no honeymoon for Aaron Glenn. He's lost his benefit of the doubt, and that's why it's such a big story.
I don't care what you say. I care what you do. I mean, listen, and I am a fan, so I was not offended at all. I also take it with a grain of salt. I mean, at this point, I don't really care what Aaron Glenn says because Aaron Glenn is standing on some really thin ice, number one. Now, what else could he have said? Well, you know what, Rich? And, Rich asked the question, Rich, we went through the options here, and two, he's got a pop gun arm that wouldn't have played at MetLife in November. And Malik Willis, $30 million for some unproven guy. We don't want to do that. And, this guy's like, he could have denigrated the other. Like, what is he supposed to say at the end of the day? Go ahead. I
didn't mean to cut you off. I mean, those are all valid points. There's a way to praise which he did. He did praise Geno Smith, and he did say he made some mistakes last year, and he did say those are correctable, and we like him, and Geno wants to be with us. But the promised land, he didn't have to say that because that just triggers the alarm bell.
Well, Jake, it is a little hyperbolic, but let's just and you can delineate for me. Do you think he meant the promised land, the Super Bowl? Because let's face it, for the Jets, the promised land at this point is a freaking wild card. I think that's what he meant.
I mean, 8 wins would be an achievement considering they haven't won more than 7 since 2015 when Geno, by the way, was on the team and was supposed to start until the IK incident that we reminisced on last week happened. BT, I see your point, like what's he supposed to say? But my big thing is, like, what other NFL head coach coming off the year Glenn's coming off of would say that about a guy who was quarterbacking the only team in the league that was worse than the Jets a season ago? Like, he could have simply said, we think Geno's a good quarterback. We don't think last year is a reflection on the type of player he is. We can't wait to get him in our building and see what he could do with this offense this year. Like, there's just so many different ways he could have said it, because this is the same coach who a year ago, sitting next to Rich at the owners' meetings, wherever they were last year, said he wants the team to move in silence. And it feels like everything since then has been the Jets and him a lot of times making headlines for unnecessary reasons. And like, people are going to make the joke, oh, the promised land, what, getting the number 1 pick in the draft for Arch Manning?
Well, yeah, I know. Hey, listen,
deal with.
This guy, I get it. I understand why people will resist this here. I guess I've just heard so much and seen so much. And really at this point, I'm almost desensitized and immune to anything that any Jets person says. Just show me a product that's better, please. That's all we all care about. I know that. But, compared, and Rich, maybe you could jump in on this, compared to Robert Saleh, who didn't say a damn thing, who was so vanilla. Like, I thought that we were getting Tarzan. He looks like Tarzan. He kind of coached like Jane. I'm not a big Saleh guy, no disrespect. But for a guy who I thought was going to, knock down the walls and, give us this energy, he got really soft and really benign and really boring really fast. So Aaron Glenn's got a little flair for the verbal dramatic. That's okay. I'm okay with it.
Well, like I said at the beginning, I'm kind of torn because as a journalist, I like that stuff. That gets us in the headlines. It's good content. Looking at it from the other side, though, I think it was just a poor choice of words. I think it was well-intentioned,
sure.
And I think it probably had a positive effect on Geno Smith. And I know after I tweeted that quote, Garrett Smith liked the tweet. So evidently it's having a positive effect on some of the other players on the team.
Yeah.
I just think given everything that's happened, he got a lot of crap for the superpower quote. Then there was the so-called sleeping incident at the combine. It's just been a rough offseason for AG, and I just think he needs to avoid those verbal booby traps and just stick to the straight football stuff.
BT, Rich Cimini, Jake Asman with you. Jets Collective, hit the like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. We will be live every single week.
Yes.
All throughout the upcoming Jet season, including the draft, which is coming up. We're going to be breaking that one down in just a bit. But Rich, just staying with some of the other takeaways from your time out at the owners' meetings. When you were sitting there with Glenn, the promised land comments aside, it did feel like he was way more relaxed in that setting for the first time. So what were some of the other takeaways? What did you observe from listening in on the head coach?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and that's going to get overshadowed because of the one headline, but it was 37 minutes. He was very relaxed. He was very amiable. He was insightful. He got into some, inside football stuff. Very positive, of course, self-reflective, said some of the things he's going to try to improve on. He's pointed specifically to practice reps. I think maybe he wants to dial it back a little bit, recovery time for players. He's going to really focus in on game management with their game management coach, obviously an area that needs to improve based on last year. So I thought he was great for those other 37 minutes. It was just the one soundbite that overshadowed everything. But yes, a looser, relaxed Aaron Glenn. I think, and the fans may not believe me, but I think he really is trying to be more accommodating with the media. Last year, obviously a rough one in that respect, but I think he is trying to make the effort.
I'm going to use us as an example here, guys. And now it's a high-profile position. Of course, you're the head coach in the NFL of a New York team, a New York-based team, Jersey-based team, tri-state area. So anything that you say is going to get blown up, good or bad. I get it, right? But I would guarantee that, and I think that our show is already really good. I think that this is going to be the number one Jet show. I believe that with everything that I'm made of, right? But I promise you that if we're to watch this show in 6 months, when we've got God knows how many shows under our belt and the reps and the chemistry, and we learn each other's cadence and how to play off each other, there's a learning curve. And I just think that last year, Aaron Glenn went through some missteps and some trials and tribulations. Number one, the roster wasn't very good. Now, as Rich has said, and we all know this, Jake, he complicated his own world with some of the petty back and forth about the backup quarterback and some of the infighting, whatever. I think he's a smart man. I also think he's a leader of men. As I said last week, I think he's going to learn. I really do, Jake.
Well, it's interesting because it almost feels like a lot of what they have done this offseason is maybe what they should have done